and L2 both. And today's expert, I would like to welcome Dr. Chirag Darji. And let me introduce Chirag Darji, sir. Chirag sir is eminent expert in the field of ELT education as well as research. Sir is PhD in ELT as well as UGC NET and GSET qualified in education subject. Sir has participated in more than 57 seminars and conferences at state, national, and international levels. Sir has also delivered more than 25 lectures. And moreover, he has published around 24 research papers, articles, 9 books are there in the area of research, ELT, education. Sir has also coordinated 7 research projects offered by UGC and state government so far. Recently, Sir has been working as an associate professor at Waymade College of Education. His teaching experience is 11 years in the same area. And Waymade College of Education is an English medium B.Ed college. Right now, around 12 M.Ed students are there under his guidance. 2 M.Phil students are pursuing their M.Phil under his guidance. 6 PhD students are there who are pursuing their PhD under his guidance. Chirag sir, the institute feels extreme pleasure to welcome you here for the expert session in ELT. I hope the B.Ed students of various institutions joined here will be having great amount of learning and understanding on lesson planning in English language teaching. So without taking much time, I hand over to you the session. Chirag sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction. And I am also thankful to HM Patel Institute of English Training and Research for inviting me in this expert session. Friends, the topic which I am given is lesson planning and unit planning. Friends, you know, the topic is such in which you could elaborate on each component for 1 hour full day. In fact, friends, I'm sharing the PowerPoint presentation, and you let me know if it is not visible to you. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to teach in this particular session. I'm going to include what is lesson planning, what is unit planning, what are the components, principles, approaches that we need to keep in mind, what are the major elements that we need to focus while planning the lesson and while executing the lesson. Other than that, I have also brought certain lesson plan which I have prepared. I am going to show you that also. We know very well, planning a lesson is a tedious job, and I am sure all of you would agree, and mostly all the trainees would surely agree with this point. Friends, there is a beautiful model, PPP model, that is planning, process, and product. Now, all these three depend upon each other. If your planning is not accurate, meticulous, constructive, your process will not be so. And if your planning and process are not up to the mark, the product you can predict, you can assume what will be the product. Friends, in this particular session, I'm going to talk to you about lesson planning, the components, the steps, the types of lesson plans, approaches, principles, and so on. The second point, that is unit planning. In that unit planning, I have tried to put some information and the samples. After that, I'll be showing you the types of lesson plans and on each component, what precautions we need to keep in mind and what innovations we can bring for the planning of effective lessons. That also we'll be talking about. Okay. So, friends, with this, I begin, and I hope the session will be interactive. All of you would participate in the interaction. All of you may raise questions during the session. You may interrupt me anytime, during any discussion. I have brought some teaching learning resources also. That also I'm going to show you. And other than that, if you have any doubts, you may ask. So with this, here we begin the session, friends. What is lesson planning? As I said, The information about lesson planning and unit planning will be available in your reference books and the books which are available there at your institute. In fact, there are many research studies carried out on lesson planning, unit planning. So theory won't be the problem for you to get. What I'm here for to explain, to share my own expertise on how should lesson be prepared and how should it be executed. When we plan and execute the lesson, what precautions we need to keep in mind. That I'm going to emphasize the most in this particular session. So whenever I have placed some information to connect, to relate my ideas, however, I would surely skip that point. So let's begin. What is lesson planning? Friends, lesson planning is nothing but it is called POA. P-O-A. That is called plan of action. You are very well aware. Plan of action means what? And when you prepare a plan of action, what you need to do, what are the prerequisites, that you know very well. There is a beautiful and an effective philosopher, Jiddu Krishnamurti. When he was talking about the aims of education, he has very nicely placed the first point, that is know your learners. When we plan the lesson, when we were going for the block teaching or micro teaching and all these things, did we ever think for whom are we preparing the lesson? Mostly not. All right. Know your learners. Planning a lesson is not an easy job, right? Many opined it is a tedious job. Maybe tedious because while planning a lesson, you need to keep in mind many factors which are directly or indirectly affecting in your teaching. That is why when you plan the lesson, you need to think about the psychological aspects of the students, content matter of the topic. You need to understand the mental age, the psychological temperament, the attitude, the expectations that you wish the students to change. So all these factors also we need to keep in mind while planning a lesson. So what Jiddu Krishnamurti said, we must put this in our mind when we plan a lesson. Know your learner. First you know, assume, predict, and then you plan a lesson. Let us begin. R.L. Stevenson had very aptly said the importance of a lesson plan. He said, to every teacher, I would say, always plan your lesson beforehand, but do not slave to it. This is the beautiful lesson plan. This is the beautiful definition on lesson plan, in which you wanted to say that you need to plan the lesson, not to be to slave for that. Now, many a time, the experts, the supervisors, while observing the lesson, it has been said, noted that you did not follow your lesson plan. Planning, execution was not as planned, right? It means what you plan, your execution was not done in that sense. Many times they reflect, they comment like this. But friends, it is not true, right? Planning a lesson helps you to understand how to deal with the next component. How should that, the new point be executed before the students? It is for that. It is not just to be slave. It doesn't mean that in 5 minutes I have to do that only. After this, I have to do this only. If this could be written, it has to be written in that way, that place only. It's not like that. Okay. It has to be flexible, right? The lesson plan has to be flexible. It has to be negotiable, right? It has to be negotiable. And third, it has to be constructive in nature. These 3 things we need to keep in mind, right? So the first definition makes the sense, saying we need not to be too slave for that, but we need to understand, right, what for I'm preparing it. Bagley said that, however able and experienced the teacher, he could do never without his preliminary preparation. Now, what he wanted to say that anytime at any formal setup, when you are asked to talk or to teach the students in a formal setup, the able or the expert teacher also prepares a set of notes. I'll show you certain, sort of notes which we used to prepare. These are called the teaching cards, right? We also prepare such teaching cards. I hope it is visible, right? So for the lectures, when we prepare these teaching cards. You can see these are called concept maps, right? You must have heard the name Marmar Mukhopadhyay. We talked about the concept mapping. How should it be done? We also prepare ourselves when when we are asked to talk in the formal setup. So planning a lesson is essential, but it doesn't mean you need to follow that only in a very punctual manner. Look at the next point. The lesson plan is the blueprint of the teaching learning program of the teacher, which he is expected to follow in his classroom teaching, in his daily work. So what is lesson planning? It is nothing but a teaching learning planning. It is nothing but a blueprint. I hope you have heard the word blueprint. Okay, blueprint is the term taken from the dictionary of architecture, in which, before building a building, they prepare a blueprint so that proper space of the land could be used, and the things are placed properly and nothing is omitted. So lesson plan is also a blueprint of teaching learning program, right? And then therefore, while preparing the lesson plan, you need to understand and take care of the Bloom's taxonomy as well. Now, Bloom's taxonomy is Bloom has given three types of taxonomy, that is the three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Right? The cognitive domain, you know very well, that is knowledge, understanding, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. These are all the domains, right? The objectives that we need to keep in mind. Not only the cognitive, the affective domain also we need to prepare. We need to keep in mind while preparing the lesson. Look at the next slide. It talks about the beginning and winning. They have talked about the lesson planning, and he said that it involves defining the objective, selecting and arranging the subject matter, and determining the method and procedure. This is what lesson planning means. You need to define the objective, what content will you take up, and how will you execute those contents before the students. So these are the three major steps that he has pointed out in this definition. The B stands that it is a plan of action, and it includes working philosophy of the teacher. His knowledge of philosophy, his information about and understanding of his pupils, his comprehension of the objectives of education, and his knowledge of the materials to be taught, and his ability to utilize the effective method. So friends, from this couple of definitions, we could interpret that lesson planning is nothing but it is a plan of action. You plan before doing that action. It is a blueprint. It talks about the 3 points: objectives of the planning, the teaching learning. Second, how would you execute this? And third, what would be the outcome after the execution, right? And that is why I said the lesson planning, the teaching is based on the 3P model, that is planning, process, and product. You are very well aware that in New Education Policy 2020, it talks about all these major components, that is outcome-based learning, right? Today, UGC has come out with a letter on developing socio-emotional qualities among the youth. The UGC has come out with a course for that, and you may register, you may glance through that, right? So why these components have to be addressed? Because when we plan the lesson, we need to include these points into our planning. Look at this slide. This is a beautiful image. You will also get it on Google. Lesson planning. When you go to the classroom, you need to keep in mind these 4 points. First, who am I teaching? What is the first slide? First point, who am I teaching? For whom I'm teaching? So for that, you need to understand your learners first. Know your learners for whom you are teaching. Are you teaching at primaries, PIT, means primary classes, upper primary classes, secondary or higher secondary? For whom do you teach? Are you teaching for L1, L2? That also you need to know. You also need to know the socio-economic status, the standard of the school, the regional background of that school, and then you need to plan it. Second point is, what am I teaching? It includes the content method, the content methods that you are going to include in it. So what supplementary resources will you use? What contents will you include? What would be the examples on it? What would be the additional resource materials that you are going to include into it? What could be the activities, the discussion will you carry out? These things you need to keep in mind. Third point, that is, how will I teach? How will I teach it based on classroom pedagogy? How will you execute the content matter before the students? Right? Let me tell you a beautiful area of research here. K. Anandan from Kerala, he carried out a major research project, and he found that the students of second language learners could do well if we teach them using the constructivist approach. What we generally do while teaching English to our students, we focus on communicative approach only, right? Through constructivist approach, he carried out a research and he found it is the most important one. And then the new theory, that is the RACE, R-A-C-E, RACE, that is rapid acquisition of competence in English. He came out with this theory, and I'm also doing a research onto it. If this idea could be implemented in Gujarat, what could be the outcome? Right? So this is something which is new, because we language teachers, what do? The language teacher always focuses on developing the linguistic skills of the students. We delimit our lessons, our planning into that only. That we need not to do, because other than language, we need to teach them the content, right? So why don't we come out with a method, with an approach, with a classroom pedagogy which aims on developing both skills and knowledge? Because what Gandhi Bapu said that when education, how does education become? Education, when knowledge enters, when the skills enter into knowledge, it becomes education. Just try to remember. What did he say? When skills enters into knowledge, it becomes education. And what do? We focus only on developing skills, right? So we need not to aim only developing skill. We need to develop the skills and knowledge. Then the child will be able to develop both language and literature. We teach literature to develop language. That doesn't mean that the child need not to write the literature in the examination. So our planning has to be planned in such a way which would satiate. Look at this slide, the orange one, which would satiate the needs of the learners, right? Student satisfaction is the foremost responsibility of the teacher while planning and teaching the lesson, right? Look at this point. The principles of objectives or objectives of teaching. When you plan the objectives of lesson plan, or when you go to teach in the classroom, what are the major 5 points that you need to keep in mind? So the first one is psychological principles. That is must. You know, the tuition teachers, they're called tutors, they could do better in enhancing the academic achievement of the student. That doesn't mean that due to lesson plan the school teacher could not do well. It doesn't mean, but the perspectives of school teacher and the tutors are different. The tutor has to focus only on academic development of the students, whereas the teacher has to focus on the holistic development of the students. And that holistic development means development of 3 H's, that is head, heart and hands, which Gandhi Bapu also emphasized in his basic education. Right? So look at this point: psychological principles, domains of learning, what Bloom's has said, cognitive, affective and psychomotor. Your planning, your teaching should be such which helps students to change the behavior. Right? When we enter into BA program, our teacher used to say, education means what? What is the definition of education? So education is nothing, or teaching is nothing but to change the behavior of the children. Okay. So your planning, your execution, your classroom pedagogy should be such which helps students to change the behavior. Now, after a session of an hour, just ask yourself, have your students changed their behavior? Do you find a change in your behavior? Do you find certain changes in your personality, in your thinking, in your perception, in your perspectives? Ask this question to yourself. Next, contents of teaching. What content are you teaching? How much content are you teaching? What are the supplementary resources are you putting into that content? That also we need to ensure, right? And the last one, satisfaction of the learners, or satiate the needs of the learner. This is foremost importance, right? This is very important point that we need to understand. If students are not satisfied with your teaching, you need to understand that either your style, planning, technique are not good, or his understanding is not good. So either you or he has to make certain changes. It increases the gaps in the teaching. Friends, before I begin to the actual points, I would like to put, the skills. Friends, approaches, method, techniques, qualities, skills. These things are very essential for the teacher to take care while planning a lesson. These are all micro teaching skills and you must have practiced. Friends, there are 12 teaching skills mentioned in the B.K. Pasi sir's book on becoming better teacher. Right? SI, SE, SSV, SSNVC, SR, SITP, SRAB, SBBW, SIWE, SQ, SP, SAC. Right? So these are the 12 teaching skills. What do we do generally? We are asked to practice on a skill of introduction during micro teaching. They are asked to prepare a lesson on SSV, that is stimulus variation, questioning, and then the last lesson is based on the integrated lesson, right? Integrated skills, wherein we include all these. What do we do at Waymade is we don't follow what this micro teaching, we follow simulated stage teaching practice. And that simulated stage teaching practice, their components are like this. The entire lesson of 35 minutes has been divided into 4 parts. And each student, there is a group of 4 students. And if they take first lesson, that is Merciful Mahagiri, the introduction and a new word will be done by student number A. Student number B will do silent reading and broad question. Student number 3 will be doing discussion, detailed question and activity. And student number 4 will be doing recapitulation, evaluation and homework. Each one has to teach for 6 to 8 minutes. After doing that, they'll be taking another topic. And that A students will be taking now stage number 2. Then for third lesson, he will be taking stage number 3. So, this is how they will change the stage. Because we believe, right, it's a lesson planning and the style of executing and all would be different. Because as I say, the lesson planning, classroom teaching, The pedagogy of classroom teaching, the teacher has to use keeping in mind the sample, the audience, who your learners are. We found our learners are able to do this introduction and questioning skills nicely, easily. We rather go to this integrated skills. So we go with that, and our students make use of almost all the skills, most of the skills during each stage. I'm going to show you the lesson plan for that also. These are the steps for the reading comprehension for prose lesson, poetry lesson, that is poem. If you have to teach the poem, you need to make use of these steps, right? So what I wanted to share with in this particular points is, of course, we need to enhance competency over each skill. We need not to forget making use of almost all these skills during our classroom teaching, right? Because each skill matters a lot, and I'm sure you could not do well without making use of all these skills, right? So here is a list of the skills. I don't explain all this, right? There is a book, B.K. Pasi sir's book, and almost all the B.Ed colleges keep this book. So you can go through with that book, and the detailed description with examples, right, is mentioned into it. Look at the next point. Why should we prepare the lesson plan? Now, this question I would like to ask you. Bataiye. Why should we prepare the lesson plan? I wish the students to answer on this question. Why should we prepare lesson plan? You could also talk about the challenges of lesson plan. Yes, over to you, students. What problems do you face while preparing the lesson plan?
So that we could teach the students in a better way. And when we are in the classroom, we don't waste our time. We already know what we can ask in pre-part. So that way it can save time also.
Very good. So we can save the time. We could be focused on our teaching, the points that we have taken. Very good. So I'll take these 2 points from you. Okay. Any other ideas, friends? What are the benefits of the lesson planning? Why should we prepare? I'm sure all of you have experience and might have this feeling. Sir, planning a lesson is a very tedious and difficult job. You know, I spent 3 hours in planning lesson plan. And I have to teach in just 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Sir, can I teach without planning? I mean, you feel like that. But then just imagine if you go to the class without the planning, what would be the, you can imagine what would happen in the classroom, right? So why should we prepare the lesson plan? What are the benefits, merits, significance point? Tell me. Save the time, we could be focused. 2 points. Any other points?
We have idea that we have learn that topic to the that students.
Okay, we get an idea that whether the topic has been understood by the students or not in this specific time. This is a point, right? Suppose you have taken up an X point and you thought, yeah, I will be able to explain this in 2 minutes. And you, after doing that, you would think, because when you teach, you ask yourself whether I could be successful into it or not, right? When we teach a language, we ask students, you listen what you speak. If you listen what you speak, you will develop the spoken language, right? Same way here, when you teach, you need to evaluate yourself, whether your students are answering or not. Because the way in which I am doing at present, I ask the simple question and I'm evaluating myself, right? So same way you need to do that. Friends, tell me, what would be the other point? What benefits lesson planning? Yes.
So we get the idea of timing, in how much time we can complete the topic.
Very good. So time management, beautiful point, right? So time management is also the benefit. If you prepare the lesson plan, you will not be out of track and you will save the time. You will be specific, right? Otherwise, you must have listened the comments that so and so session has been elaborative, right? Anyway, any other point?
When we the lesson plan for
chapter or something, nothing of that chapter gets left out if we plan the we have prepared the lesson plan accordingly.
That
And
is a
if
beautiful.
not,
Beautiful.
and if not, something important will get left out.
Very good. Thank you very much. If you plan a lesson, almost all the important points will be noticed. If you don't plan, right, you must have experience during the assembly talks. You have thought to speak so many things, and our teacher say you have to speak orally. After the presentation, you will realize, yeah, these two were most important points, but I forgot. This will not happen if you plan, right? Because when you plan, when you write, when you think, you will have that that visuals in your mind while teaching. Very good point. Thank you very much. Shall I move? Okay. If you plan a lesson, you will develop the confidence. This is the first thing, right? Because when you plan, when you write, when you have thought, you will be confident. Even if my session would be over in 20 minutes, you will think, yes, I have these many steps I have planned. If I have time, I could do this also. I can also ask them to demonstrate. I can also ask them to reflect. I can also ask their feedback. So you could say, okay, I have these many things. So that confidence, delimitation of the contents. You could delimit what you have to teach. Systematic teaching will take place. If you plan a lesson, conducive environment would create in the classroom. Otherwise, there would be haphazard, hodgepodge points on the blackboard and teaching. You would not be focused. Lesson plan also helps to link the previous ideas, previous knowledge of the students. What they know, you have while teaching, you need to take care what they know and what they do not know. You have to link it. So if you plan, you could link. Otherwise, you will be like, a religious script. It's not teaching, it's not preaching, right? That we need to focus. Expected outcome can be achieved if you plan a lesson, because when you plan a lesson, you decide what your students, what would my student do, learn after a session. Thought-provoking questions could be raised. Avoid repetition. You would not repeat what has been said. Assessment would be the most important point during the planning of the lesson plan, and that you will take care, right? Otherwise, like preaching, there is no introduction, no assessment. So no establishment of rapport and no proper exit window, right? So this is also important. Blackboard summary, which is something very, very important, right? Because what you write on the blackboard would stay in the student's mind for forever, I would say, right? So long-lasting impression your blackboard work create. So ensure you prepare to have a proper blackboard sheet in your lesson plan. Individual differences and discipline in the class. So there would be discipline, means why discipline? Because it will be systematic and students would do what you say, what you have planned, right? And individual difference will also be noticed when you plan a lesson. If you don't plan a lesson, you will consider them as a group. Next, I have taken the first letter of the lesson plan and try to list down the words. That is, L stands for link the previous knowledge, ensure the definite assignment. S stands for systematized learning process, summarization, overcome nervousness and anxiety, because it helps to overcome your nervousness and anxiety also, right? New learning introduction, prevents from wandering away from this subject, learning by exercise, practice and revision, assignment and availability of adequate materials for the lesson. And the last, new and clear ideas. Now this slide talks about the importance and what we need to take care while preparing the lesson plan. How should be the good lesson plan? I'll show you some sample lesson plans also, right? This particular slide talks about a lesson plan should be neat, train proper based on the students' understanding, their psychological needs, their mental age, physical age, their content, the textbook-based content, the linguistic aspects, their socio-economical status, their their skills, qualities, and competencies. It has to be based on that. It should not be too short or too long. You must have come across with the lessons which are very long, elaborative. Some are very short and brief theme, right? So it should not happen. It has to be specific. It has to be prosperous. That doesn't mean you need to put so many points into it. It should be focused on specific piece of content so that the competency could be enhanced among the students. And the last one is, it has to help students to learn something which they have not, right? So the lesson plan, when you glance through the lesson plan, you should feel, yes, I have learned something new. Well, friends, Herbartian approach of teaching. In Herbartian approach of teaching, he has given 5 points. These are the 5 major steps, the components of planning a lesson or approach of teaching. The first point, he said, when you enter in the classroom, you need to do establishment of rapport, preparation of lesson and introduction. This you need to take care while planning the lesson. Second point is execution of your planning, that is presentation part. Here you need to make use of SQ, skill of questioning, skill of explanation, skill of stimulus variation, probing very effectively. Third is comparison and association. So how will they do comparison and association? When you give them the task. Here you can use of the method, that is TDLT method, task-based language teaching method. Give them authentic materials, give them resources, give them additional information. Ask them to to reflect over what has been taught. Then association of ideas would take place, right? Generalization means you need to summarize at the end what has been taught, what has been understood, and what is the important, what are the learning outcomes of this process. And then it has to be applied outside. And this last point we hardly focus on, right? We do evaluation, homework, homework. We need to enable students to apply what has been taught, what has been learned. Look at the components of lesson plan. These are the components of a 35 minutes lesson plan in which we do write general objectives. Now, the difference between general and specific objective, you know very well. Specific objectives based upon these specific activities that you carry out in a specific time for the behavioral changes of the student is called specific objectives. The general objectives could be based on the entire unit and entire topic that you plan to teach to the students. For example, the general objective could be to enable students to develop their interest, to enable students to develop their linguistic competencies, to enable students to develop the communicative competencies. This could be the general objective. That is, what is the specific objectives? The students will be able to speak, students will be able to explain, students will be able to compare, students will be able to list the various adjectives to describe the picture. So this is what the difference between general objectives and specific objectives. In a lesson, we write general objectives and specific objectives both. I'll share you the lesson plan. There you will come to know. Previous knowledge. When you prepare a lesson plan, you need to assume what my students possess. You must have heard maxims of teaching. What is maxims of teaching? Known to unknown. Psychological to logical. Near to far. Easy to difficult. Simple to complex. Now, these are all the maxims of teaching. When we plan a lesson, we need to take care of these maxims also, because ensure you don't teach what they are already familiar about. You need to bring them to the thing where they do not know from where they know, right? So from here to there, you need to bring them. So here in your lesson plan, you need to assume what would be the the skills, the competencies, the knowledge of my learners. Right? You have to predict it and then you have to prepare it. TLMs, that is teaching learning materials and methods of executing it in the classroom. Introduction, that is pre-task. I'm going to share the different types of lesson plan. Here I'll be showing you, these are the different types of lesson plans in English we do carry out at the institute, and I'm sure many of you are doing at your institute, because when we train for the L1 level, right, L1 students of first language learners, for them these kinds of lessons are necessary to be taught to the students, to the trainee teachers, so that when they go to the classroom in the English medium schools and international schools, they need to plan the lesson. They need to teach their students into specific formats, to the specific style, through the specific classroom pedagogies, right? So these are the different types of lesson plans. I'm going to show you the samples later on. Next one is recapitulation. It means revising what has been taught. This recapitulation could be carried out through asking the questions orally by the teacher to the students, or teacher could do summary. It could summarize what he has taught. Next, discussion. Discussion is also an important part that you need to take care through providing various activities, the task to the students. Explanation is also an important point. Presentation, evaluation homework, vocabulary sheet, BB sheet, and enclosures. Friends, it has to be into these steps. You must see the arrows here. In your lesson plan, you write first the general objectives. 4 or 5 general objectives you need to write. 3 objectives should be based on the language, on the subject that you are preparing the lesson plan, and last objective should be based on the content. Suppose you are teaching Golden Touch, a story on on greedy king Midas was a greedy person. So your 3 objectives should be based on your language, and the last objective could be based on the topic, right? To enable students to understand, or to enable students to develop the values, right? Now, general objective, after that previous knowledge, assume. Then teaching learning materials. In the lesson plan, what do we write? The students generally write, the cue card will be used, right? They write a picture will be used, but it has to be written in a very specific way. What are you using, and when are you using, and for what are you using? So you can write like this: a picture of a door will be used to introduce the lesson, right? You have to write in one simple sentence only, right? Look at this. What you need to write? You need to write like this: a picture of a door will be used to introduce the lesson. Can't we write like this? Now, as I said in the beginning of my session, that the topic which I'm given is this. It's a broad topic, right? If I take only one single component, that is planning a lesson, or preparing a lesson, writing a lesson plan, or even one single lesson plan, that is grammar lesson plan, or OC or WC lesson plan, or RC or poem, one full session could be carried out onto it, right? So what I mean to say that if when you plan a lesson plan, you need to take care of each word, each sentence very properly. Only one sentence you are writing, but very specific. After that, you have to prepare, you have to write the introduction, that is pre-task. Okay, introduction. You could write, how will you introduce the lesson? So there are 20 different, ways to introduce the lesson. I'm sure when your teacher introduced you skill of introduction, he must have given you various styles, techniques of introducing the lesson. It could be conversation, it could be dialogues, it could be presentation or recitation or singing or drama or role play or one act play or mono acting or many, right? What do we do generally? We ask question answer. Where did poet go? What did he do? Why did he do that? Then what did happen? What have you thought? What had he thought? Why should we do like? We ask question answer on it, right? Friends, we need not to underestimate ourselves and our students thinking that this, we are teaching students of first language, it means they would have work. It's not like that. There is a huge diversity on the learning competency among the EFL students and the ESL students, right? This you will experience when you will go to the school, right? So introduction and pre-task has to be properly done. Presentation part, you must have prepared the tables for the lesson of 35 minutes block teaching and of campus lesson plans, wherein for the full lesson you prepare those columns and you write. That presentation part should include what? Should include the while task, should include the post task, should also talk about the pre-task. What are you going to give into it, right? It also includes the explanation, activity, and recapitulation. The recapitulation, generally, some students don't write because the supervisor asks them, you do either of this, either recapitulation or evaluation. But friends, you observe this. When you evaluate your students with an evaluation sheet or through roll-up board or LCD projector or something, you ask yourself, don't you revise what you have taught? It is, you are doing this recapitulation very natural. You are revising the content in a very natural way, right? Whether you plan it, whether you write it or not, but you do it. You ask like this. So, okay, friends, what have we studied today? So we have studied with the introduction. We have studied the components of this. We have studied the features, objectives. What were the features? This. So you are doing it. This recapitulation is very essential, right? Because it helps your students to be with you. Evaluation and homework. I'll show you the lesson plan wherein I'll tell you how should evaluation sheet be prepared. The evaluation sheet should always be in an objective style. It should not be subjective. It should not be descriptive, right? So you need to think about that also. Homework also, we need to write homework with a proper instruction, right? Because you must have experience when you say, okay, friends, students, now write down your homework. They would pick out their notebook and they will write, right? So you have to dictate them. So dictation with a difference is again a task, a skill that you need to learn. You have to dictate them properly. You have asked them to prepare an essay on Bullock, but how should instruction be given, right? After this slide, I am going to talk to you about this evaluation rubrics of lessons. In this, I'll be talking to you what precautions you need to keep in mind while preparing the lesson plans, while giving them the instructions. I'm also going to show you one more slide while talking about that. If your instructions are not proper, listen, if your classroom instructions are not proper, students won't do what you say. What do we do, teacher? What do teachers do in the classroom teaching? Yes, last bench, stand up and answer. Can last bench be stood up? No. What you need to ask? Yes, the student sitting on the last bench, please stand up and answer. This is the right instructions. What do? We speak like this. We also say, why are you looking monkey outside as I am inside? Now, who is monkey? The teacher who is speaking, he himself is monkey. So think what you speak. Many of us don't write instructions in the lesson plan. I have seen many lesson plans. We don't write instructions. We we have special workshops on classroom instructions, right? And there we need to understand what and how instructions be given, when, how, what, how much, and what are the procedures to give the instructions. This we need to keep in mind. Next, vocabulary sheet. Vocabulary sheet is again a table you need to prepare. The serial number, 3 or 4 words, the new words, the meaning, and the uses. Means you need to make use of that difficult word in a sentence, right? Let's say I satiated my students during the classroom teaching. What do you mean by satiated? So the difficult word should be used in a sentence and should be written in the vocabulary sheet. So we must prepare the vocabulary sheet. The blackboard sheet, I have brought my own blackboard works and the sheets. I'll be showing you that also. And enclosures. Enclosures means for an introduction, if you have used any script, that script must be attached. If you have used scripts for the activity, has to be attached. If you have used any any object which could be attached, which could be placed, or images could be placed, so that could also be attached that. So these are the major steps that we follow in the full lesson of 35 minutes, right? As I said, we follow simulated stage teaching practice, SSTP lesson plan, right? And reading comprehension and poetry. How should prose be taught? How should poem be taught to the students? What is the procedure? So we follow generally this procedure, and that particular procedure has been divided into 4 parts. And the students teach the training teachers prepare lesson plans and teach to their peers in the micro teaching. What we call is SSTP. I'll show you the lesson plans for this also. Look at the next one, friends. What are the different types of lesson plans in teaching English language? The first one is comprehension, that is reading comprehension. That is prose lesson. The information based lesson, essay type lesson could be taught in this way. Workshop based lesson or task based language teaching. For example, if your lesson is based on information, it could be taught in a workshop mode, right? Now, workshop method is a method in teaching science and technology subject. We also have to, as per the new education policy, have to go across the curriculum, learning across the curriculum, interdisciplinary approaches and methods to teach the language to the students. It is essential, and workshop based lesson we need to use. Constructivist approach, as I said in the beginning, right? RACE means rapid acquisition of competence in English. So we are going to make use of this approach also in teaching poem, in teaching the different types of poems to the students, right? The last one, that is third one. OC means oral communication, right? Suppose you wish your students to develop the spoken language, you can prepare a task like cue cards. I'll be showing you some cue cards, right? Look at this. A and B, right? This kind of cards we made students to prepare it. Look, I'm sure it is visible, right? So we made students, husband and wife, discussing about their children's future, right? So a couple is having a couple of children and they are planning about their future, and wife and husband. This card is for husband, this card is for wife. They prepare dialogue, means they present the dialogues. They read. These are the imperative sentences, right? You know, imperative sentences begin with a verb. So imperative sentences are written and each one has to respond. Ask for a cup of coffee. So she will reply. So these kind of materials be used in teaching oral communication, in teaching spoken language to the students. That is called oral communication lesson. WC, that is written composition. You can make students to watch a movie and then write something onto it. That lesson plan also is available. I will be showing you that also. And the third one is grammar. You have grammar, the content, tenses, reported speech and voice and all. How will this be taught to the students? And what would be the tentative format? As I said in the beginning, there should not be fixed format of any lesson plan. In fact, if you Google it, the format of grammar lesson plan or format of unit planning, you will find different types. Cambridge has suggested, British Council has suggested, DPS has also suggested, then this SN Consagra school has also suggested. So there are different schools, different boards, different organizations, different universities, different teacher training institutes who have suggested different types of format. So there should not be fixed format, and there is not. There is no fixed format of a lesson plan, right? However, the important components of lesson plan must be placed. The placing, the nature of placing the components could be varied, right? But it has to be placed. Next. Now, this is something which is very important one. When you teach lesson to the students, how would you be evaluated? What components we keep in mind while evaluating you? So the first one is teaching skills. Do you make use of the 12 teaching skills which we have listed? Did you use introduction skill properly? Did you explain well? Did you ask question well? Did you do blackboard work properly? This is what we will be evaluating. Friends, all these 12 that you have seen, all these are skills, not qualities. So don't or never ever tell or put a feeble excuse before your supervisor saying that, sir, in my family, all the family members' handwritings are poor. So I don't have that quality, right? So don't say quality. It is not quality. It is a skill. And you ask yourself, when you were in 4th, 5th standard, your handwriting, just imagine your handwriting and your handwriting at present. You will find a vast difference. So all these 12 that you have seen, questioning, explanation, introduction, silence and non-verbal, reinforcement, achieving closure, all these could be, all these could be developed. Skills can be developed, right? So we evaluate that. Content mastery. Content mastery means your own competencies, your own understanding, the information over the content that you are teaching. Many a time it happens that the teacher is teaching active, passive voice or reported speech, and if you ask a simple question, won't be able to answer. What's the use of it, right? The 3 things that we need to develop being a teacher is your language has to be very proficient. You should be proficient at the language. So language mastery is must. Content mastery is very necessary. And third one is your attitude, right? These 3 things you need to develop during your teacher training program and to be an effective teacher, right? Language competency, language mastery, content mastery, and attitude. If your attitude, if you don't have any one of these, you will not be able to develop and you will not be able to be a popular teacher. You need to enhance all these things. Classroom instructions. I'll be showing you one more PPT here for the classroom instruction. As I promised, I'll be showing you this PPT. Hope it is visible to everyone. Is it visible, friends?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I want some of you to read out the first sentence. I mean, one after the other, the sentences which are written here. Yeah, anyone can take. Start reading. Anyone can read the first sentence.
May I, sir?
Yeah, you can.
Teacher, don't make noise. The principal is rotating.
What have you understood? Is it correct?
No,
Yes.
it is incorrect.
You only read out the second one.
Okay. Please stop. The principal has just passed away.
Now, what has happened with the principal? You tell me. Now, he has passed away, gone. So what language do we use, friends? You want to believe it. You know, when I listen such language from the trainees or from the regular teachers, I feel like to, you know, because I know you were fast, you were engrossed in teaching, but you need not to make such mistakes. Don't make noise, please. The principal has just passed away. It means gone. You just imagine the students who were not attentive in your class, what would he think? Would gone, he would be happy, he would shout it. So understand how should language be, you know, used. Always we are using. Have you understood? You understood? 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 You need to, you know, you need to make a proper use of the language. Now, are you asking question or are you are just informing? That also sometimes, you know, students struggle to understand. Is he asking a question or just informing? Because intonation pattern is very difficult that you hardly bother about it, right? So what we need to, you know, take care during the planning of the teaching, ask a question. You can also make use of certain tongue twister. You can also make use of certain, you know, proverbs there. You can also like ask this, have you understood, students? If you have understood, say that you have understood. If you have not understood, say that you have not understood. If you have not understood and not said that you have not understood, how can I understand that you have understood? Understood. This could be used. Right? So try to make such phrase, such proverbs, such tongue twister, which would, you know, make your students to be with you for all 35 minutes. Otherwise, after 5 minutes, he'll be out. You would not bother, right, what is happening in the classroom. So make use of such things, such tongue twisters, such proverbs, such phrases, such comments, such notices, but ensure the students won't feel bad. Okay, somebody read out the third one.
May I, sir?
Yes.
Will you hang the calendar or else I will hang myself?
Okay. Now listen. What happened with this sentence? Let the teacher hang herself. Die. Fine. Fourth one. Pick up a paper and fall into the dustbin. Who has to fall? Who has to do it? What should be the error? Sorry, what is the error in this sentence?
And fall.
Okay. It has to be throw or put it into, right? Throw is also not suitable. Put it into dustbin, right? That is inappropriate. Okay. And the fifth one I already said. Listen the sixth one. Hello, I am Upendra, married with 2 kids. Right? This is what we use. Married with 2 kids. It means he got married with 2 kids. Look at the seventh one. Who will read out? Okay. Yes, yes.
Since I have to go to my village to sell my land along with my wife, please sanction me 1 week leave.
Yeah. So he is going to sell. What is he going to sell?
Land along with his
wife.
wife.
Right. So both he will sell both of these. So this is what we are using. Read the last one, 8th one.
As I am marrying my daughter, please grant a week's leave.
This is what we are using, right? We are using this language only when we teach to the students, right? You want to believe I have not written that. I have experienced one of my students has used this. Okay, dear students, please don't make noise. Today I am going to teach you Jallianwala Massacre and I will be dividing you all into 4 groups. The ladies, you know, the small child, you know, she was sitting on the right hand side, first bench, she stood up and she said, Madam, don't divide me into 4 parts, divide all these girls, they were notorious. This is what the language we are using, right? Read out the next one. 9th one.
As my mother-in-law has expired and I am only one responsible for it, please grant me 10 days leave.
Right? So my mother-in-law passed away and I am only responsible. Means, grant me 10 days leave, so I'll hide myself somewhere so that nobody would caught me, right? Well, go to the next one, the last one, 10th.
Since I have to go to the cremation ground at 10 o'clock and I am not returned, please grant me half-day casual leave.
Right. This is what we are using. It means what? He is going to the cremation ground and may not come back. This is what the language we are using. Okay. And I showed you all this because the classroom instructions, we don't write it in the lesson plan. And as we don't write it, we don't speak correct in the classroom. So we need to be conscious about that also. Listen the next one. We also check the lesson planning. How did you plan? Whether you have planned, whether you have executed as per the planning or not. So we the planning also, right? Your planning gives the impression of your teaching, right? Your planning gives the impression because your lesson planning is the mirror of the teaching. Okay, is the mirror of the teaching. Next, language proficiency. Language proficiency includes the fluency. You must have experience. You must have visited the schools, right? The principals, the teachers, how do they speak? The school teachers are very fluent. Why are you sitting here, friends? Go get it done and then show me how will you do that? I'm not going to listen what you are going to do it. You need to have the fluency. Now just imagine if you don't have fluency, how would you survive in the class? It's very difficult. You are fumbling for the words. Yes, you take your notebook and then till then all students would be out. So you need to have fluency, accuracy. Fluency, accuracy, LSIW, competency over the grammar. These are also essential. And the last one, intonation pattern, right? You must use it, right? Please switch off the fan. Please switch off the fan. Please switch off the fan. Now you are using please, but your intonation is not that. So we need to understand that also. Classroom pedagogy includes approaches, methods, techniques, and skills. I don't talk much about it as it takes the time, but what pedagogy you are planning to use, that also we ensure. Task and activities. Friends, for task and activities, I have brought certain tasks. Take it. This is cue cards, right? This is cue cards. As I gave the example for the cue cards, there are certain other materials which I have brought for homophones. You must have heard. What is it? Look at this. Right. Is it visible, friends? Is it visible?
No, sir, it's not visible.
No, sir.
Okay. Just 1 minute. I'll see whether the camera is working or not. Just 1 minute. Okay. Can you see this now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now what is this? This material is based on homophones. Is it right and right? Right? See, look at your pronunciation. How should be the pronunciation? One, O-N-E, one. So you have to roll your lips and you have to speak. One, two, three, one. If you say one, no, the particle with the lower lips, then it is one, W-O-N, past form of V. Look at this. Write down. This is right. Okay. A boy is writing his biography, and in America there is a rule to drive vehicles on the right side. Okay. Look at the other one, close. And this is closed. Okay, this is closed. The door is closed and the couple is standing close to each other. The third one, tire and tire, right? So you need to understand, I'm tired with this session and I have changed my tire. Look at the one, waste and waste. This is also, look at this. The girl is measuring her waist and wasted my time. Okay, so these are the materials which you could bring. Now tell me, in a session of 30 minutes, how much time will this take? It will hardly take 5-7 minutes to execute it. Can't we make use of this? It will surely add the supplementary information among the students, right? There could be certain cards, views and counter views, right? Education being second in mother tongue, in a vernacular language, or in global language. So in times of India's speaking tree, or in past there were articles, views and counter views. You give a couple of students the card of view and a couple of students the card of counter view and let them read and argue. This would also take hardly 7 to 10 minutes, but yes, it will surely help students to develop their competencies, their linguistic competencies, their argumentation skills, and so on. Right? I'm sharing the PowerPoint presentation once again, and we'll be showing you the samples also. Hope it is visible to everyone. Is the PPT visible, friends?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Thank you.
No, sir.
Is it visible, friends, to everyone?
No, sir.
Okay, just one.
No, sir.
Yeah, just one. Okay, now it will be visible. Okay, look. Teaching skill, content mastery, classroom instruction. It is content mastery. It is not content mastery. Please ensure you use the correct pronunciation. Right? Content is a noun. Content is content is a noun. Content is a verb. Right? Resume is a noun. Resume is a verb. I resume her. Okay. Classroom pedagogy, task and activities. I have shared some tasks, some activities. I am also going to share in the next slide. Look at this. This slide talks about my task, the materials which you could use in the classroom teaching. Teaching learning materials, evaluation and assessment. For that, we evaluate the students how he or she does summative and formative evaluation. In a lesson of 30 minutes, the supervisor does not only check your last stage, that is evaluation. How do you do evaluation? He also checks your summative and formative both evaluation. If you do evaluation sheet at the end of 30 minutes lesson, then it is called summative. And during the lesson, when you ask the questions, then it is called summative. It is called formative evaluation, formative assessment, right? Look at it. These are the various cards. I have this stories, strip story. This material is also available. For example, a golden touch story is there. You take the important sentences, cut it and arrange it into jumble way and then give it to the students. Ask students to arrange it and form a story. This would also help students to prepare to compose a story. Right? Cue cards, I have shown the cue cards, jumbled parts, composing a short story. Poetry recitation could also be done. Identify me. You can ask students, I have somebody in my mind. Ask students to identify. They will ask you the question. You have to simply say yes, no, yes, no. Is it a male? No. Is it a politician? No. Like this. So various activities, tasks, games could be carried out in a lesson of 30 minutes, which would help students to develop their language, their skills, their interests, and ensure it is based on that topic. Students should not feel it is something from out of the topic. Viewing and counter view, that is viewing and reviewing. Composing a story, autograph hunt, literary events, debate and elocutions, expansions of ideas. This could be a beautiful activity in which you have to simply give them one word. You must have heard the example on structural approach, the theory of structural approach. I go. This is a structure. I go. You have to add the structure. I go to the playground. I go to the playground with my friends. I go to the playground with my friends in the evening. I go to the playground with my friends in the evening to play the cricket. What happens? The students used to add the structures, right? Here we will not limit only one structure, but will also and insist students to expand the ideas by putting the words, describing by putting the ideas into it, describing events, authentic materials, critical thinking, views and counter views, introducing oneself, summary, precis writing what you say, identifying the essence, types of reading, inner outer circle, model reading, and various tasks based on the IELTS module. That is also effective in teaching to the students. These are all the skills, LSRW, right? Unit planning, I'll simply revise unit planning because I wanted to show some lesson plan also, and I'll finish it in 7 to 10 minutes. I have to finish. Unit planning is what? Unit planning is developed by the teacher keeping in mind the entire unit, right? Unit planning is based on the entire unit. It includes various types of lessons into it. And this unit planning should include this. You can see one unit has sub-units and various plans under it. And the last two plans should be based on the remediation, revision, and the last would be based on the assessment and evaluation. Then the proper unit planning could be carried out. Friends, here is a list of the books which would help you to get more ideas. I have made use of BK Pass's book. I have made use of this Abarani book, Teaching English in India. This book also I have used, right? And other than that, you could make use of these books. All these books are available on Flipkart and Amazon. You may buy these books, right? I'll show you certain lesson plans now, and then I'll finish it. I'll surely share this stuff to you so that you can access it. It will be helpful for you in your future. I'll show you the images. The Blackboard work, the Blackboard summary. How should Blackboard summary be carried out? Look at this. Is it visible, friends?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now look at in a B.Ed teacher training program, while teaching one lesson of 30 minutes, we ask students to prepare the Blackboard work like this: new words and meaning, broad question and main points, and the other informations, right? Why I am showing my Blackboard work to you? I am showing deliberately so that you could understand how could content be, segregated on the Blackboard. This would give a clear image to the students, right? Look at the second one, right? This would help students to understand. They have to simply take a photo. They have to read this Blackboard work only in the examination. For the exam, it will be easy for them to write. For higher education, this would surely help. For school students, you need to write much. But ensure you write sufficient points on the Blackboard. We hardly write, most of the important points of the content on the Blackboard. We need to do it. These are certain other pictures which would help you to know how could Blackboard work be prepared. I'll be showing you now the sample lesson plans, right? And then I'll finish it. I'll go with the written composition first, because this lesson will help you to understand how OC, grammar, and WC lesson be taught. Is it visible, friends?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Look at general objectives, previous knowledge assumed, techniques, learning resources, and this is the introduction, right? This lesson plan is based on the movie review. This is my written composition lesson. I have taken topic movie review, and this is my presentation part. Look at this. The entire lesson plan presentation is based on 3 parts, that is pre-task, main task, and while task. Okay. What I am going with, as I said, in the specific objective, look at students will be able to list the major events. Students will be able to write. Students will be able to discuss, right? This is how lesson plan be prepared, how effective it looks. You can understand. This is homework. This is a Blackboard work, which I have kept a blank rectangle. You can write the points here. I'll be showing you the format of the unit planning, the composite unit plan that you prepare for the students. These are all the pamphlets that you can use, which we ask our students to make use while preparing the unit planning. Okay. This is what I wanted to show. That is English. That is micro teaching. What you call it: introduction stage, questioning skill, stimulus variation skill. We do this SSTP simulated stage teaching practice. This is stage 1. You look at this stage 1, introduction stage. But in that, the students are using all this. SQ, SIPP, SR, very good, good. All that you are using SR. SRAB, skill of recognizing, attending behavior. Skill of stimulus variation, SBBW. This is our blackboard work for this stage 1. This is for stage 2, that is explanation, that is called recitation of the poem and broad questions. Look at the broad questions are written here. Okay, this is stage 3, that is discussion. I have asked detailed questions on it and main points. And this is stage number 4. And look, this is the evaluation sheet. The evaluation sheet can be prepared like this. That should be 2 exercises having objective-based questions, right? And minimum 3 items must be placed. Now look at this. Both these activities are objective-based. This is blackboard sheet. Now look, this is what these are the steps that we need to follow in the lesson plan. I'll be showing you the full lesson of 35 minutes, and this lesson plan includes these details. Look at this. General objectives, previous knowledge assumed, techniques, projectors will be used to introduce the lesson, learning resources, introduction. These are the steps. Now look, this is important one. Teaching points, identification of new words. You need to write the new words here. Specific objectives, students will be able to tell the meaning. Students will be able to frame the sentences. Teacher will make use of various techniques like verbal illustration. What are the techniques of teaching vocabulary, friends? Any idea? We have LCCW, look, check, correct and write. Illustration, verbal illustration, pictorial illustration, object, real explanation, questioning. These are various techniques of introducing the vocabulary, and you have to write the new words here. This is silent reading. When you teach prose to the students, you have to do silent reading, model reading for the second language learners. This is activity and evaluation. But this is again a one more sample lesson plans which I have prepared, right? Now, when you be the regular teacher in the school, you are asked to prepare daily planning, weekly planning, monthly planning, and yearly planning. We do all these at Waymade, and we ask students to prepare these daily planning. This is a simple one-page planning, which our students prepare for the daily planning. Okay. So friends, with this, I put the pause. If you have any questions, if you have anything to share, feel free to ask questions. I'm done with my side. Please, friends, ask question if you have any. Any question, friends?
Friends, if you have any question, you can ask right now. Any query or confusion regarding this session or lesson planning?
Okay. If you don't have any question, you may drop your questions to sir, and he would surely forward it to me. If you have any question afterwards, you may also drop it to him. He will surely bring it to me, and will surely share the stuff that I have used in this session, right? And with this, again, I'm thankful to all the participants and the organizers for providing me an opportunity. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Yes, sir. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chirag sir. Friends, it was really very informative, and as well as some practical portion was there regarding lesson planning. Some of the points sir noted down, sir outlined here in his presentation, including understanding what is planning. That is to be understood first of all, and why we are planning, for whom we are planning. Okay, and some of the teaching skills, which skills are important for lesson planning, Some of the students responded well. Nirjari, Goswami, Vaishali, Radhika Solanki, Vidushi. I am thankful to them. Then components of lesson planning. Then classroom instructions, evaluation, examples covered by sir. And I'm thankful to you, sir. And one more instruction for the students that I will provide you the same PPT which was presented by sir here, with which you can use in your exam for preparation as well. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for being with us, using your precious time with us.
Yes, sir. You are always
Chirag,
welcome.
sir, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you.
On
Thank
behalf
you so
of
much,
the-
sir. Have a good day. Yes, sir.
And thank you so much, students, for being with us in this session. And for tomorrow's session, the link will be provided in the group, the WhatsApp group that we have created. If any more students want to participate in this expert series, then they can join that WhatsApp group so that they can have updates and links and all. Okay, so thank you so much, sir, once again. And now we are ending the session.